Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm meadsy69. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to have a tank versus tank. Yes, two tanks that play very, very similar in the battlefield. We're going to have a look at both tanks to have a look at their stats and to decide which tank I prefer and which tank I would recommend if it comes into store. So the first one, we have the Kanonen Panzer. It is a German tank destroyer, and to be honest, it's a very, very good tank. I like it. A lot of people probably won't like it because it doesn't have any armor, but you can actually still get some troll bounces in this thing, believe it or not. So it doesn't really have too many hit points and armor. As you can see there, 75 millimeters on your hull, but you also have 2,771 damage per minute. Your reload is 8 seconds, and your penetration is 255 on your APCR and 300 on your heat. Now, that is a lot of pen for a tier 8. That is enough. I wouldn't run it with calibrated shells. I mean, you could if you wanted to, and if you do, you can get your pen up to 330. But if I'm honest, I don't think you need it. I really don't think that you need that pen. You're in tier 8. If you're in tier 8, I think your 300 millimeters is enough. You've also got 350 alpha, 300 on your heat, and 400 on your HE. Aim time is very good at 2.6, and the dispersion, again, very good at 0.290. You have 8 degrees of gun depression with the speed is 55 kilometers per hour. So you've got a tank with no armor, with good pen, good alpha, and everything else that is good. The aim time, dispersion, the speed, very, very good. And it is actually a fun tank to play, depending on how you play it. Another tank that I absolutely adore is the AMX CDA. Now, it has a little bit more armor than the Kanonen. Not too much, but again, like the Kanonen, you can actually get some troll bounces, more so on this than the Kanonen. The Kanonen, if you're lucky, this you can actually get more troll bounces than you would expect. So again, the hit point is not really a lot, and the DPM is 2,625. So the DPM is slightly less, not so, yeah, not a lot less, but it's just about the same, to be honest. Reload is 8 seconds. Now, the penetration is actually better on this tank than it is on the Kanonen. You've got 260 on your APCR and 310 on your heat, which is more, again, it is more than enough to do your job. The HE pen is 53, and you've got a 350 alpha gun, 300 on your heat, and 440 on your HE. Aim time, again, is very good at 2.9. Dispersion is good, but not as good at 0.308. And it's got, again, the same 8 degrees of gun depression, and the speed is just a little bit less at 50 kilometers per hour. So which tank do I prefer? They are very, very similar. The Kanonen got great speed, aim time, dispersion, and yeah, it is a fun tank, but overall, I probably prefer the AMX. It feels better. It's a little bit slower, but it does feel a little bit better than the Kanonen Panzer. And I think, to be honest, I think this gun is very similar to the Leopard 1. Almost the same, in fact. So yeah, I prefer the CDA. That is my personal opinion. So we're just going to get into some games, just so you can see both of these tanks on the battlefield. So we are going to watch me playing the CDA, and there is someone else playing the Kanonen. So yeah, I think the tank actually looks really good as well. I think the tank looks really good, and it's one of those tanks, again, it all depends on how you play the tank. If you're just going to sit at the back of the map, then of course it's not going to be that enjoyable. But both of these tanks has the speed to get in the battle. You know, you don't just have to sit at the back of the map. I know you've got not much armor and you're a tank destroyer, but you can play it differently. Now, what I usually like to do in both of these tanks is play it like a tank destroyer at the start, and then later on use your speed to get in there. If your team all go together, then you can go with your team and you can get amongst the front line, and you can literally just bully tanks, because your DPM is not as good as some of the other tank destroyers, but it's decent enough, and you've got the pen to go with that to back it up. I'm a little bit different because I'm a very impatient player. I don't like to sit at the back for too long. As you can just see here, I've been sitting there and I'm thinking, you know what, nah, I'm gone, and I'm literally rushing in to the enemy team. And before you know it, I've gone from playing as a tank destroyer very early on to then playing it as a frontline tank. Now, I am obviously being very, very careful. I can't quite get these shots, and I do stupidly bounce the Annihilator there. But again, because you've got no armor on both tanks, you do have to be very, very careful, because if you do get shot, I'm sure a lot of people will be able to HE you to some extent as well. So yeah, just play it safe. You'll be all right. You will be okay. So there goes the second kill. I mean, we've only got 300 damage. We haven't got too much damage, but we still got 2 kills. We've still done our part at the moment, and then we are going to rush in. Now, we're not going to rush in too much. Now, I know that there is the ISU there, so I'm just going to take the shot and then back up, because I don't, at this point in the game, when it's now a 4 versus 5, take any chances. So I do get my 3rd kill against the ISU, and now, again, I'm backing up. Now, I do have all 3 of my tanks around me, so I'm not going to push forward. I'm going to let them push forward, and then hopefully I'll just get the damage at the end when they start pushing. But I get that shot there, and again, I'm just going to back up and let my team deal with them. But I am paying close attention to that Pantera behind. I don't want him to come behind me. And as you can see there, we do bounce on the Emil, but we also get a bounce from him. So at the moment, I'm going to ignore the Emil. I know I could push the Emil and get rid of him quicker with my team, but I really want to pay attention to this Pantera that is coming up behind me, and I want to get away from the Emil that is coming up the other side as well. So yeah, I need to be careful here. Luckily, the Emil is a one-shot, so I was going to wait for him, but then the owl guy took him out anyway, and now there goes the Pantera. Now, unfortunately, we are not going to do too much more damage because of the Chimera and the hit points. Sorry, not the hit points, the supremacy points. So you could just see, like, that's how I normally play this tank. I normally do play it very aggressive, but because you have that speed, if you need to get out of there, you can get out of there. And that is what I love about both of these tanks. So this game, we're just going to fast forward it a little bit, because most of the game, he is actually playing it like the tank destroyer, and you can see we're just going to fast forward it to there because he hasn't actually moved, but it doesn't mean he's a camper by any means. It just means that this tank does actually do well when it is in this kind of position, and there's nothing wrong playing this tank in this kind of position, because the aim time, the accuracy, they are all both really, really good. So you can play it in this position. You could get the shots off. You've got that high alpha gun as well, and again, you've got that speed in case you just need to get the hell out of there. So this is a very, very good tank. The CDA is also a very, very good tank. They are both very good tanks in their own mind. They literally play very, very similar. You can play these tanks exactly the exact same way. You could either push in with your team. I wouldn't go front line because everyone will look at you because you don't have much armor. But if you just sit behind your heavies a little bit, then you can farm damage. But I would honestly, if you are going to buy these tanks, or if you're going to buy at least one of these tanks, just play it like this guy did. You know, at the start of the game, just sit in a tank destroyer position, farm some damage, because you can really farm damage with the reload of these tanks. And again, with this tank in particular, it does have that aim time, and it does have that accuracy to sit at the back of the map. Then later on in the game, once you've saved all your hit points and you've got all the enemy's hit points down, then you can rush in. But again, with both of these tanks, be careful not to get flanked, because you've got no armor whatsoever, and they will be able to HE almost any part of the side of you and any part of the rear, and probably even this tank's in this tank at the front as well. So you could just see that snapshot there against the T34. He did that with ease. It penned with ease, no problem whatsoever. So let me know your thoughts on the Kanonen. Let me know your thoughts on the CDA. Are they tanks that you like? What would you prefer? Now, if you don't own any of them and you're thinking about owning maybe at least one of them, I would go with the CDA. Personally, I would go with the CDA, but that is my personal preference. If you look at the stat wise, then the Kanonen is probably just about better. It doesn't have as much pen, and it doesn't have as much alpha on the HE, I think, but they are very, very similar. But I personally prefer the CDA. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, guys. I'm meadsy69, and I will catch you all very, very soon. Bye-bye. With